Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're going to do some easy watercolor brush flowers. I've been trying to learn how to journal lately, and I've been learning how to decorate my journal. So I'm going to show you some of the flowers that I have been learning how to make for my journal. Welcome. If you haven't met, I am Viv with Art with Viv, and let's just go ahead and get started. Now the first thing I'm going to show you is a little rose. Roses are easy. We're going to do a cluster of 3. I'm taking a sort of a light yellow color, and all we're doing is little spiral circles, but we're making sure that you leave a little bit of the white of the paper showing through. Then I got a nice rosy pink, and I will link these colors down below so that you'll know the exact colors I use of the Tombow markers. And we've got our little cluster of 3. I've got 2 rose colored ones and 1 yellow one. But what I'm going to do is just kind of cross-pollinate those. I'm going to take some of that yellow and put it into the pink roses, and some of that pink into the yellow rose. And it's just a little spiral, just little spiral scribbles, making sure that you leave some white of the paper. In the center, I put a few darker sort of golden dots to just look like some stamens, and then I've got a nice bluish green, and I'm just doing some little leaves around here. These are really simple flowers. I have found that they look really good in my journal. I have been really trying to keep myself organized with my bullet journal, and one way that makes me want to use my journal is to decorate it. So I am learning how to make some flowers. Next, I'm doing a goldenrod, and all you're going to do is do sort of messy little stars, star shapes, half stars. They're really just scribbles that sort of indicate the petals of flowers, but it's not an actual detailed flower. It's okay, your brain's going to do the work. Your brain's going to say, "Ooh, that looks like a flower," even though you've only gave an indication of one. Our brains are wonderful. So you want to get that dark gold down. I'm doing it in a conical shape, sort of like 2 little Christmas trees attached at the bottom, and then another tiny little Christmas tree over there sort of curved to the side. And then I'm just going to add some green leaves in there, sort of in between some of the flowers, filling up some of that excess space, and then just going to put a few little stems at the bottom. I've also went and got a darker green just to add some dimension to those leaves, so I put some darker spots to look like little shadows. Next, we're just going to do simple little sort of posy flowers. All it is are 3 or 4 little circles going around a central spot. So you pick out your little center, and then you just paint or draw, in this case, 3 little circles right around that center spot, or 4. It's up to you, and you want to kind of cluster them. It almost reminds me of cherry blossoms, except for these are really, really tiny, but I just like the way they look. They're so delicate and pretty, and they're so easy to do. And then I just did some single little ovals, and that looks like buds, just to make it look like some of them haven't blossomed out just yet. And I'm using sort of a deep rosy dusty pink for that. Again, I will link all of the colors. If you are familiar with Tombow markers, you know that they don't actually have a color on the marker. It has a number, but I will put all the numbers of each color, and I'll just kind of give you a description of the color by the number so that you'll know what color it's supposed to be. And then, of course, the same like we did with the goldenrod, you just add some leaves in there in some of those empty spaces and sort of, pack them in. Now I'm making little tiny oval leaves, and I went with a yellow-green sort of color for these because I think it looks really good with the pink. And then I'm taking a darker rose color and just coloring in the centers to make the centers a little bit darker. Gives them a little bit more dimension. Now, remember, we're not going for realistic, we're going for decorative. Now I decided I want to make some blue flowers, and I want these to be big and fluffy. And we're doing the same shape, only we're just making these larger. We're picking a center point, and we're doing 3 or 4 circles around that center point. Now if you want to make your flowers look like they're sort of leaning away from you, make that bottom petal shorter and longer, and that makes it look like it has a little bit of perspective and dimension to it. And of course, whichever way that you are pointing your petals makes the flower look like it's leaning left or right, depending on how you put your petals. So we just put the blue in there, and now I'm taking a darker blue and making tiny little dots right in the center, and on those little buds that I drew, I just doing a little tiny dark mark to show where it's about to open. And then I've gotten sort of a pale purple, and I'm drawing some lines in the centers for shading. It's just some line shading in there. And these are really pretty, so I decided to go with a light green, a light bluish sort of green for the, a light yellow green for the little leaves. And these leaves I'm doing in clusters. Instead of just like little single leaves, I'm doing clusters of leaves in the empty spaces, and of course adding a few little stems here and there. And all that is just you draw a line, and then you cluster little ovals on either side of that line, and that's all you got. I mean, these are so simple, anybody can do them. And I'm just taking another darker green so that I can add some shadow onto those leaves. And I also added a center vein onto the rose leaves, as you can see, and that just gives it a little extra something something. So let's see. Next we will let's do some like lavender is what I'm thinking, the flower lavender, or either here in the South we have butterfly bushes, and the flowers are shaped like cones, like little Christmas trees. So all we're doing is taking a medium lavender color, a medium purple, and we're just drawing tiny, tiny dots all over, sort of like pointillism, but we're making sure that those dots end up in the shape of a Christmas tree, skinny at the top, fat at the bottom, and we're connecting them at the bottom, all three of the little Christmas trees. Gonna take a little bit of a darker purple and put more dots in, and then to finish that off and really give it some dimension, we're going with the darkest purple. And we're not putting that but except for near the bottom and the centers, because that's where it would be darker on a normal flower. And then you just get you a nice green, and I'm making these leaves. Butterfly bushes have long, slender leaves, so that's what I did. I made some long, slender leaves. Then I'm going to make some little golden flowers down here. And same thing. Now these are longer and skinnier, whereas before we were doing those round, sort of ovally shapes around a center. Now we're doing long, skinny, sort of pointy ones, sort of like, I want to say coreopsis. And I also added some of the lighter yellow to the center and the darker gold to the outside. And I went ahead and put some of that lighter gold up there in our goldenrod. I think it made it look a little bit better. And I also added a darker center to those blue flowers. So let's do one more flower. Let's do something that's sort of like a black-eyed Susan. First, let's go ahead. I went with a really dark, because these flowers here, these golden ones, they look sort of like autumn flowers almost, like they would be blooming in the autumn. And so I went with a darker green for their leaves, just to kind of keep that autumnal look. And then we're going to go and do our black-eyed Susans. So I've got a nice bright golden yellow, and on this one I'm just doing some 3 petals down and then a little petal in the back, as you can see. And then I did 5 petals sort of facing you, flared out, and then 3 petals over to the side. That just makes sure black-eyed Susans look like they're leaning in different directions and pointing in different directions. I'm taking a dark brown, and I'm just doing a little round, sort of ovally center that's really dark compared to the yellow, because black-eyed Susans have really dark centers and they have those bright yellow petals on the flowers. They're so pretty. They're one of my favorite flowers. And then you're just going to take some light yellow green, add some stems, and then just add some sort of shaggy leaves. I was going to say flowers. You know what I mean. Just stick with me. We're just going to put some shaggy sort of leaves on there. And there you go. You have some beautiful flowers you can use for different things, decorations, cards, put it in your bullet journal, whatever. They are just so quick and easy to make. And I hope you enjoyed this. And next week we're going to be painting with our brush markers. So stay tuned for next Monday's video.